Hey, 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 mighty pals. I got another throwback for you this week to the 80s. Last week it was Top Gun and my Ray-Bans. This week it's to my first baseball team love. Yes, Les Expos for my Canadian friends. Before the Phillies came the Expos. But you're not here for that, right? You're not here for Throwback Thursday. You're here because I promised you 10 tips to create content faster and easier as we've been talking about content for our businesses. And of course, because I'm all about the email marketing and the email content is the first thing in my head, but I'm also about repurposing. So, yes, I sent out an email today that talked about this live and talked about the content tips for faster content creation without writing. And yes, it's probably going to become a blog post. So, let's get to those tips so that you can save time and effort and energy. Because, yes, there are plenty of ways that we can create the necessary content that we need in our business. That strategic, client attracting content with a purpose, content that has calls to action in it for our business. No more willy nilly posting, just no willy nilly sharing of things. Look, I shared an email recently that was all fun and lighthearted because that's what we need some of in the world right now. But even that was strategic in that regard. Why? It had lots of things for you to click in it. Clicking tells ActiveCampaign that you're engaged, which is good, which means more of you get my emails and open them and click other things. So, strategic content, but maybe not stuff that takes us so far forever to create and to write. Because yes, creating blog posts and emails and social media posts and your freebies and your courses and your videos and everything else takes time. So let's save time. What if you don't consider yourself to be a writer? That's totally okay. What if it takes you forever to get something written and published? I don't blog as often as I should because I feel like I have to be totally perfect and tweak all those words and just get over yourself, Jennifer, and just create the blog post. But what if you're a talker? Irony, I'm actually not. But what if you're a talker? So we can speak. We can do that. So we're going to go through the suggestions and at least the 10 ways that you can do this so that it is not daunting and draining. Okay? So let's go. Hey to my mighty pals and my mighty folks who are visiting today. Hey to Fran. Hey to Kat's here. Awesome. So let's talk about those types of content. So yes, this is written content. And there's actually 3 of the 10 things that are in there. There's PLR or licensed content. There's public domain content. And then there's hiring ghostwriters. And I actually know some ghostwriters. So the point is that PLR is coming in all kinds of formats now. It's coming ready for you for social posts. It's coming ready for you as reports. It's coming ready for you as a video script. With some light editing, I said light editing, not rewriting, you can use this pre-written content. You can just use an outline. Oh, hey, maybe I'm using a piece of PLR as the outline for this Facebook Live, and then I edited it. Yeah, totally did that. Hey, so awesome. So glad if you're here between a break in meetings. That is awesome. And you can always catch me on the replays. So the other thing I'm going to tell you before we get into more licensed content, and yes, you can use it as scripts. It can become multiple social posts. It can be a new opt-in gift. It could be a challenge. It could be a program. It could be a course. You know this. You're buying it. Go use it. So one other reminder. Share screen here real quick. So this is me. This is a post here today. I sent you out an email that had links, and it gave you some of the 10 tips in the email. Not all of them, but it gave you some of the 10 tips that I'm going to talk about. And I mentioned content curation, and I mentioned PLR and speech to text. I also threw in a little something to make sure that you're paying attention to my emails. Check out the PS in the email. And then tell me, what should I inflate for the pool this weekend? The llama or the unicorn? So drop me a llama or a unicorn as text or a GIF in that post in the Mighty Marketing Mojo Facebook group. See, accidentally took myself on camera. So that was just a little fun thing that I wanted you to do. I mentioned curated content. Curated means that you don't have to create everything from scratch because there are other brilliant people talking about the things that are related to what you do, and you probably read them and you probably listen to them, so share them with your peeps. It's you're sharing what's the best of already out there, and don't assume that your audience has already seen it, read it, listened to it. Be their go-to source for things. If you're in the parenting space, share other parenting experts with different tips, because maybe you're toddlers and maybe you've got parents of tweens and they need a different set of tips. Maybe you're going to share cooking tips. Maybe you're going to share home organization tips. Maybe you're going to share somebody else's public speaking tips. So in the email that I sent today, I sent you a link to an article that I curated about content curation. Yes, I'm Meta. And in it, I actually talk about how Canva can help us make things look good in our content curation. I also mentioned in the post recently that I use the tool Feedly. I also use Flipboard. Those are ways that I can get articles and quickly curate them out in terms of for social media. Good stuff. You're still a go-to source. Public domain. This is a little bit different, and I know I've got some copyright experts who are in my group. Shout out to Barbara. Barbara was with me in Tech Therapy Hangout this morning, and I know she's working on courses about protecting your copyright and your content. But there are items of content, audio, video, written, books, cartoons that have come into the public domain. And there are different rules on when something can be in the public domain in the United States versus Europe and the United Kingdom. It means there is no current active protected copyright. Copyright is expired or copyright was turned over and you could use it. There are fantastic archives out there where all of a sudden, hey, if you want to drop in an image of the original Winnie the Pooh, I believe Winnie the Pooh is now out of copyright, whoop, you could drop that in. There's entire books you can read that are out of copyright because they're old. However, the point is there are ways you can mix and match some of that content. Just make sure it's truly in the public domain. If you have questions, drop them in the comments and we'll make sure that you understand about, good things about copyright in that regard. So I mentioned the curated content. Now let's talk about some of these other formats. Audio, video, hello, video. But my video today, kind of, as I mentioned, started as text. The notes that were possibly in PLR, the stuff that I edited and then went as an email, and yes, it could turn into a blog post with this video embedded. Remember, you don't have to do live video to make video something that works for you. You can make videos out of PowerPoint. I taught that as a thing in my content repurposing Mojo course. It was a bonus tutorial video. You can make videos with Canva. You can make videos with Adobe Spark. You can make videos with a whole bunch of other tools out there. I'm going to teach you video for the camera shy this fall. If you're interested, make sure you drop me a comment that says video in the comments if that's something that you want to make sure that you're interested in, because there's so many other ways to do it without you having to learn video editing or anything like that. Audio. You don't have to have a podcast to make use of audio content. You could take the audio from a Zoom recording and post that using other tools. SoundCloud is a common one where you just embedding the audio in a blog post, the link to it, in an email. That there are folks out there who prefer right now to get their content via audio because they're multitasking. I know it's become really popular to take the audio track out from training material and to use it as a, quote, private podcast just for the students in that course. Hello Audio is the most commonly used tool for that regard. The other one that's kind of in this audio format, speech to text. If you're great at talking and not great at typing, or you sit there and you're looking at typing and you're like, the cursor's just blinking, speech to text. Oh my goodness, I remember years ago, and the only option here was Dragon, and Dragon was hella expensive for what it did. Now there's speech to text tools everywhere. All right, watch you on the replays, folks. So you can use speech to text. Speech to text is now built into just about every mobile device. Also, it's built into things like Google. And I'll drop the link in the comments. I sent it out in the email today that you can use voice typing in Google Docs if you're using Chrome. So that's pretty cool. So maybe you want to speak your next blog post, or speak an email, or even speak the outline and the contents for a course that you're doing. I will often use the speech to text feature in mobile, not just for sending text, but for things like, oh, I want to add something to a list in Trello. I want to add a note in Evernote. Well, I'll use speech to text in that regard to make that even easier. So one of the other things that we can do is you can leave yourself voice memos, and then you have the audio later. Transcripts. There are so many more tools for making transcripts. YouTube will make a transcript of any of the videos that you upload to it. You can also use things like Rev and Otter, and I have Happy Scribe. I don't use it as often as I should. All of my courses from here on out going forward should all have transcripts. That's important for me to do, and it's not hard. There's obviously the software that's out there. So the other things we mentioned, hiring ghostwriters. Yes, it's an expense, and it could take a while to find someone who has your same style, but it's worth considering. Collaborations. So it could be a collaboration. It could be something even as simple as, hey, I invite people on with me to be guests in a Facebook Live series that I do over several days. I do that probably about once a year or so. You could think of them as mini summits. You could even package them together and then use them elsewhere. You could have a collaborative blog post. I did this last fall. I used a form on my website, and I asked my Mighty Pals what they love about email marketing, how email marketing has helped them in their businesses. They sent me their answers and their responses, and I put together my introduction, my conclusion, and their snippets throughout with their photos and links to their sites. Awesome way to community build, awesome way to create content. Business coach Kelly McCausey just did one she did a listicle about listicles. You know, those like 7 ways to do this, 8 ways to do this, 10 mistakes you're making now. And various people wrote or updated a blog post they had that was a listicle, and we sent them to her, and then she compiled them into a roundup of other examples of listicles. Super simple, super awesome. Backlinks there too. So another one is that there are simpler forms of content that we could be creating. And this is especially true for things like email opt-ins, checklists, worksheets, short workbooks, fillable PDFs. Everybody's attention is stressed to the max. They're not going to read 17-page or 27-page ebooks, and they may not watch your 3-video series. I've done all of those things. So how about checklists and shorter content that somebody gets a quick win easily? Maybe that's even something you give away free, or it's a great content upgrade. And again, oh yeah, by the way, I'm betting you could find all of those as PLR that you can easily edit. I have a package of content checklists that are actually going in a bundle sale at the end of this month. So easy to do. Absolutely. One of those, Fran. So Fran's all about, Fran, you're going to test out and do a listicle. Absolutely. In fact, we can even brainstorm in the comments. We can talk about it. It could be 10 public speaking tips or 10 tips to get comfortable for your next video interview. I remember I did almost like a listicle of this, or tips on how to project, or tips on like when you're actually up on a stage somewhere giving a presentation. Fran has a Toastmasters background. You could easily pull some tips from that Toastmasters background, to give people some suggestions on that. We just got to figure out what's easy peasy to write for you. Now, there's one more that I want to mention, and this wasn't in the email, and this is something I'm still exploring. So that's AI, artificial intelligence-based content tools. There's a ton of software out there now that can basically help you write and create content. Which, in the irony is, this is also a throwback Thursday sort of thing, because for those of you who don't know, I have a master's in library and information science, and then I went on and spent 7 years working on a PhD. I am very ABD. I did not finish the program. I walked away. But a lot of my peers were working on basically text auto summarization. They were working on machine learning and content. It's like some of the software that exists now is based on the knowledge and learning and what people were training computers how to do 10, 11 years ago, plus when I was in grad school. And so it's fascinating to see that one of the instances of that is now writing marketing content and blog posts. So there's a lot of different tools out there. And in fact, I even got an email today, for one. I showed this in my Tech Therapy Hangout Mastermind earlier today. Uber Suggest is from Neil Patel. It's an SEO tool. And of course, now they have an AI content writing portion within the tool. And I'm only even in here checking this stuff out free. But they sent me an email today reminding me, hey, we have this new paragraph writer and we have this new AI content writer. I'm like, well, okay, maybe I'll check it out. And I put in easy content creation for solopreneurs because I wanted to see what it was going to do. And it's going to generate page titles. And there's tons of content headline generators that are already out there. I've shared several of those in past videos. But I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I'm like, well, what happens next if I hit the meta description? And the answer is, well, I may not be able to get that far on the free version. Oh, let's choose one. 7 tips on how to write easy content. And it's going to go off and it's going to think. It's using this large corpus of content and stuff that's been fed into these AI knowledge banks as they're getting better and better to write. And it's like, okay, so these are some of the meta descriptions, and you choose headings and so on. Now, here's the thing. It's still a computer. And so they can potentially produce things that help us get past that blinking cursor where we have the blank screen blues. You're still going to need to edit it. You're still going to need to possibly add in the examples that are totally relevant for you and your business and your niche. And the other thing that AI is not great at, and this is true across all of the different tools that are out there, they're not great at emotion and story, because those things are very human and computers just haven't grasped all of that just yet. The point is, there's a ton of these. Jasper, formerly known as Jarvis, is one of them. And of course, they have an article, probably written with AI, about AI generators. And you can look and you can see about how they all work. No, it's not an issue in terms of duplicate content. Obviously, and over here, this is AppSumo. And yes, of course, AppSumo they bring to the forefront all kinds of software that is brand new, that is in beta, that is trying to get more users. And I've seen probably a half dozen, at least, AI content writers come through AppSumo in the last 9 or 10 months. Some of them I'm like, okay, I kind of wish maybe I'd taken that offer and tested things out, because then maybe I'd be blogging a little bit faster than I am right now. Get me actually using some of the more content and stuff like that. This is one of the ones I'm looking at. It's got a lot of very good reviews. That's one of the things I always recommend. You take a look at the reviews. Make sure you're not like, oh, I had to buy the upgrade to get all of the features, or, oh, there's a limit on words. That's a big one with the AI content. There'll be a limit on the number of words or posts that you can create in a given month. And you're like, yay, I got it for a one-time lifetime deal. I'm like, oh, it produces the equivalent of 1 blog post a month. Boo. So check those things, check those reviews if you decide you're going to use a tool like AI to help speed up content creation. If I choose to buy one of those or test one of those out, Mighty Pals, you'll know about it. I will come back and report on it. Like I said, I've been thinking about it for like 9 or 10 months and I haven't done it yet. I don't know. If you've already bought one and you love it, drop me a comment and let me know what you bought and what you're using it for. So the point is that there's lots of different ways we can make our content in faster ways. Pick one for the rest of this month, or pick one format maybe that you're going to work on this summer that's going to help you be visible and be consistent faster, because you're not trying to write everything out. Like, I highly recommend collaborations. I think it's a great thing. You know other people who talk about the same types of things that you do or in similar portions of your niche. Get together and write those collaborative posts with each other. And hey, you could potentially even turn it into, a freebie swap. But right now you're concentrating on writing a collaborative blog post or do a collaborative Facebook series. Get 3 people together and go live like Monday, Wednesday, Friday of a week. And then make sure that you tell everybody that you're going to do it, and make sure you schedule it in advance so people know they're coming. But use the power of the group and the power of additional formats to create content so that you're not chained down typing all summer. Drop a comment below and let me know if there's one of these non-writing content formats that you particularly love. Are you like my pal Christina, who is a podcast expert? She helps people set up their podcasts, and she's launched a new podcast of her own. Val Selby is a mighty pal, and she's got a new podcast as well. Tisha Lee is going to restart her podcast. So, hey, if you like to talk, maybe podcasting is your thing. So we can pick one of these and let's work on it to make our content easier, faster, so that you are consistent and visible with your ideal clients this summer. Awesome. Hang on, I got a good one from Fran. Fran's going to say she found a couple of old speeches that she's going to work on for a blog post and maybe make some emails out of them. Fantastic. That's content repurposing and using other formats of content all in one. You know I love that. All right, folks. See you next week.